The customer dropped off a 2003 V-Star 650. It's only running on the rear cylinder, won't run on the front. He said he's got spark, he put new plugs in it, and doesn't check the carburetors. And judging by the stank of fuel that's coming off of here, I'm pretty sure that when I open these up, they're gonna be pretty ganky in here. Somehow the fuel pump got hooked up backwards and his DOA. I don't know how you mix them up. One's blue and black and one's just black. So we're gonna replace the pump, we're gonna replace the filter. But I mean, apart from that, we get all kinds of who knows what and doodads and whatnots. And fuses seem good though. Not sure how. So the rear carb is just finished running, and it's not exactly the color that you want to see. A little dehydrated looking. This looks like a piss test rather than a cup of fuel. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull them right out of the bike. You know, throttle position sensor, a heater, both sides. These just pull off. Right. Hey, no big deal. And yeah, undo the choke, undo the throttle cables, and she should come right out. So as always, I'm going to start by separating the two carburetors from each other, and then we'll disassemble and see what we can discover. So now that I got them apart, first thing I notice here is the cap and the throttle blade, because this is the idle speed screw, is turned pretty far out, which pushes the throttle open, so it's not even running off the idle circuit, it's running off the pilot jet now, which is usually a sign that it's having trouble idling, and it's probably because it's gummed up inside, which obviously we're going to discover. It's just another clue as to what's going on with this not firing on the front cylinder. And this is the front carburetor. That's the rear carburetor with the throttle position sensor. So we'll do this one first. All right, got them loosened up. Let's see what we got. No, it's not the worst. I'm expecting more. I was expecting more gross than that. There is something completely plugging the pilot jet, so that'll make it not idle. Let's get the rest of it apart. More clues. The fuel inlet and the screen is all gunk-a-dude. And I don't know if you can see, but there's all kinds of gunk inside here. The customer didn't bring me the tank, but I suspect the tank is a little bit messed up. We got a little green death. Just took the air cut diaphragm out. And so what this does is, when you get off throttle, there's a little bit of vacuum that comes through to close off a port to enrich in the mixture. So you can run a lean mixture, but it doesn't pop through the pipes. But what happens a lot of the time is this gets gummed up, and then they don't actuate properly. And then when you're coming down from full throttle and you get off the throttle, you get big pop, 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 pop out the pipe because she's too lean. Well, there you go. A lot of times it's just a matter of replacing this. There's a little spring inside too. These two things, those two screws. Right, got the second one in the ultrasonic. I got the front carb here. Quite a bit nicer. Football. Choke. Clean up the needle. Clean this guy up too. It's not all magic in here. There's a lot of elbow grease that goes into this too. I'm gonna explain my process for this. I'll just shut it off there. So what I do, obviously disassemble as far as I can. And then I take the carburetor body itself and the float bowl, usually the dirtiest bits, and I clean them up as best as I can on the outside and on the inside with just a chemical brake cleaner, just a spray cleaner, and little brushes and stuff, and try to get most of the dirt off before it goes in the ultrasonic. And that helps to break down a lot of the deposits and stuff from the bad fuel and everything else, the corrosion and stuff in here as well. So I get that off as much as that out as I can. And then I go with the 000 steel wool around all the little brass bits and stuff like that to clean it off. Usually I spray a little bit of carburetor cleaner on the steel wool as well to lubricate it up while it's polishing up, and it doesn't really take much to get the grime off of there. From there, I rinse it off with soap and water, just regular dish soap and water, and spray it off with compressed air to make sure once it's rinsed out that everything is out of it. You don't want any water and stuff left in there. I take just some brake cleaner and I spray it in all the passages because the brake cleaner does not leave a residue in there. So I spray that off and then give it a blast with the compressed air again. And then it goes in the ultrasonic. And usually I do, because this one doesn't quite fit the whole carburetor body in, so I usually do half an hour like this, half an hour like that, and see how it looks. And this one was looking pretty good. There's not really any scale left, any corrosion, any carbon or anything like that on anything. And same thing with this. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but this is pretty clean after about an hour. And while I'm doing that, I disassemble the second one and clean it all up manually, and that's what's going on in here. So this one I can't flip because of the throttle position sensor, so I'm just going to find a little bit of a different way for it to go in just to take care of the rest of those passages. Once it comes out of there, I rinse it off under the hot water tap, blow it out with compressed air, hit it with the brake cleaner again, and then blow it out again with the compressed air. So this is nice and dry, there's no residue in there. And I make sure to get in with the compressed air to every little passage, every jet, every air jet, every fuel jet, and just make sure that, and I don't go like full bore with the air either, but make sure that wherever the passage goes to, there's air coming out the other end if it's supposed to come out the other end. Yeah, and that's basically it. And then it's ready for reassembly once the carburetor kits show up, which should be tomorrow. Well, today is now 2 days later, and I got the carb kits in, so we're gonna go ahead, get these things buttoned back up. I assembled most of what I could, other than where we're gonna throw some new parts in. So we'll open up these kits, get them installed, get the carbs back together, and put them on the bike. So this is a keister kit made in Japan, and it includes just about everything you need. So we're going to go ahead and replace everything we can, with the exception of, oh, look at that. That is really cool. Guess I didn't realize they got a different style, so you can actually reach the adjuster on the idle air screw. So it comes with the float valve with the screen on it that presses in on that little O-ring, and I always like to put just a little silicone grease on that as it goes in. Slightly different style drain plug for the float bowl. It's got a O-ring with it. The stock one I don't think did. The only thing that I don't really replace, unless I absolutely have to, is the slide needle. The stock ones on these were fine. There's a little bit of goo stuck to this one, but the other one was perfectly clean. If there's no wear on it, I'm just being picky, I think, but it's a different material, so these are brass. And even though it's got the marking on it, what the taper is and everything, I'm not 100% sure that it's the exact same taper as what the stock one is. And I get that it's probably matched with the actual slide here, but in order to keep as many stock parts in this as possible, I don't know why, but I try to avoid replacing these unless they're absolutely worn out. So we're gonna just omit those, but everything else is gonna go in. There we go. So new jets in. Our layer screw sticks out just enough so you can get your hand on it, which is perfect. And this guy sits very nice in there. Actually looks quite a bit better than the little stalker. Plus somebody went at this a few times, made a mess of it, but that's the old stuff. That's the new stuff. Beauty. So we got bowl gasket. We got a couple little extra things, but these guys go on the little fuel rail. So we'll put those on. And then there's a couple little extra ones. I think this is a E-clip for the choke rod, I believe. But the other one was fine. And then I'm not sure. They always include a couple extra little O-rings because sometimes these kits fit a number of different bikes. But for us, we are good to go. I'm just gonna slide the float back on with the needle and the pin. New bowl gasket. And the other thing about these keister kits, I don't know if any of you guys have struggled with an all balls or one of those cheaper kits with the rubber bowl gaskets, but these ones just fit without stretching them, without messing around, and they don't swell. It's a Viton rubber seal, same with the O-rings, good quality, made in Japan, and like just having it go on without having to stretch it and pull it apart and try to heat it up and fiddle around with it for 5 minutes before you can get it together, so much nicer. Okay, so I got the carburetors all back together, and right now I'm gonna bench balance them. And all that is involved in that is I backed the, this is a throttle speed adjuster, so I backed that all the way off for right now. You can see the screw that's in between the two carburetors. This is the guy that's gonna adjust the opening for the secondary carb. So obviously this drives it, but it drives it through these springs and this screw, so that you can adjust this to match this one. And the way that we're going to do that is I'm going to take my little handy dandy carburetor cleaning wires, and we're going to pick a really thin one, and we're going to open the throttle just enough so that there's a little bit of drag on the wire, so you can see it's starting to open as I wind that. Okay, I need 3 hands for this, but essentially this will go through right now. It's a little loosey-goosey in there. If I back this off a little bit, it closes the throttle. And now I have some resistance on it, so you can feel just the slightest amount of resistance, but it still goes in and out. However, if I close this a little bit more, now it's stuck and it won't come out, right? So you want to have it just so you can just barely get it in and out. And we're just going to play around with it a little bit. There, it's going in and out. And then on this side, oh, it's way too sloppy. So on this side, it's too sloppy. So what we do is we tighten. It's going to be obvious when you do it, but on this one, you tighten this screw, and you should see that blade close. See? Right, open, close. So this one stays constant while we do that. So this is still going to allow this wire to go in and out. And on this side, we're getting about the same amount of drag on it, maybe a little bit off. So again, I'm going to take the center screw and just tighten it up another about 1/8 of a turn. Which is now a little too tight. Oh no, we're good. We're going in and out. It's tight. Double check on this side, about the same. So that should be good. And then I just like to back this off to begin with, all the way, so that they're closed. And then just turn it just so this is touching. As soon as you feel resistance, you stop. And now, that way when you're opening and closing these, they should be equal. Go back in the bike. A little annoying to get them seated down there on the intake sockets, but it's there. Cable's attached. Idle, and then I just need to plug in the throttle position sensor. Click, dunk, dunk, nice and tight. And so for these, the CV vacuum actuated, and those are nice now. They're sticky before. For these CV type carbs, usually you want to have the air box attached. At idle, you can get away with not having it just to see if it fires. But as you go to open the throttle, if there's not enough vacuum due to the restriction in the air box, then these will just end up fluttering and they won't open properly. So this is the actual, the diaphragm pulls that up on vacuum. And if there's not enough vacuum sucking the diaphragm up, then the slides don't open. So you can have your throttle flaps, throttle blades all the way open, and these things are just fluttering and the bike runs like crap. So for right now, just to make sure that it's gonna fire on both cylinders, all I'm gonna do is hook the fuel up to it. I'm gonna check the float height by putting a clear piece of tube on the drain on each one and opening up the drain screw. And there's a specification for how high that has to be, and it's up on the body. I think it's here or something like that. I'll check out the factory service manual and see what that says, and then with the clear tube we can see if it matches the height and if both are the same, and if not, then unfortunately those bowls have to come back off and we have to bend the tab on the float to adjust the height. Annoying, but we don't want to go through all this work for these pretty carbs just to have an issue in the fuel height, make it run like crap. Here we got it hooked up to the bottle. Should probably put a cap on that. Not that it fucking makes a load of difference. So fuel is on, bypassing the tank I don't have, and yeah, let's see how it goes. Fuel is on. Switch on. That's a good sign. It's got a stone cold. Maybe I pull the choke on or something, eh? Again, with the air box on, it's a little warm. I'm still gonna throw a little bit of choke on it. Let's see. That's probably no good. I wonder what the tank is like.